Hi, it's Sin. Welcome to the Pre-Patch Podcast. You maybe want to check out the patch notes since you guys aren't here live watching it, or I don't know, downloading our stuff or listening to us everywhere. I mean, one of the best podcasts on the freaking internet, for God's sake. Is that good? Okay, good. I'm going home. Moving on to some other kind of unsettling things, controversies, issues, changes, big companies doing things people don't like. D&D, and I'm going to let you kind of handle this one, but D&D licensing, because I didn't even hear about this, the Wizards of the Coast stuff. Like, what is going on? Like, this is all like imploded over the last like couple of days.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, it's been going on for a lot longer than the last couple of days, but this is just it
Really
kind
blown
of
up.
finally came to a head.
Yeah.
In the last like weekish, I think. But yeah, essentially, so Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast had an open, what's called an OGL, an open gaming license for Dungeons and Dragons, right? Which then in turn, it basically gave the ability for content creators, companies, everybody to make content in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, or that had anything to do with the Dungeons and Dragons. Like I think that it's Star Wars: The Old Republic somehow uses the OGL with
Weird.
their stats and their skill trees in some way, shape, or form. I'm not really sure. I just remember something coming up about that. So they technically are on this open game license for Dungeons and Dragons, right? A lot of people, like you're talking like Critical Role, which is one of the most popular Dungeons and Dragons streams on in the world right now, right? They're making multi-millions of dollars a month just playing Dungeons and Dragons and creating Dungeons and Dragons content. You got stuff like Cold Press, which is a big one that comes out with homebrew and also not homebrew classes and character sheets, what's it called, races, everything like that. They come up with like custom stuff for Dungeons and Dragons that you can then go to their place, purchase it, and say, okay, yes, this is mine now. I can use this in my Dungeons and Dragons, my next game, essentially, right? So the open game license is vast and has a lot of people connected to it. What Dungeons and Dragons did recently, they're trying to move into what they're calling 1D&D, which is another. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's supposed to be another version of D&D. Right now we're on 5e, which is 5th edition, right? They want to move to this 1D&D that is it's supposed to be like one rule set that you can use across everything, essentially. Yeah, it's essentially pretty much. So the biggest thing with this though is that like with this they want to go down a route of it being like exactly like you said, like it's ours, we rule it all. This is our licensing. If you are using it and you are making money off of it, we're going to be getting our just dues off of that, right? So they're going to be, if you're making money off of anything to do with Dungeons and Dragons, they're going to be taking royalties, or in some instances, they just might take your creation and say, "Screw you, this is ours now."
Yeah.
So is this just saying something like Dungeons of like we talked about Dungeons of Syndaria, right? Is this saying that they would need to pay $750,000 per year?
If they're using a portion of that open game license, then yes. Once they reach 100,000, like I think it's a very specific amount. I think it is $100,000 a year. Once you reach that crescendo, once you ascend over that.
Well, there is a states that products using OGL earning over 750,000 per year must pay.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's
25% royalty. That's still insane.
Yeah.
25% royalty is freaking crazy.
And on top of that, again, you owe them 25% royalties, but there's also a very good chance that they can be like, "Huh, that's a really good idea. That's ours now."
Huh. That's kind of
so
nuts.
it's been a really big thing with the Dungeons and Dragons community. Obviously, I've been keeping tabs on it because I every Tuesday I play Dungeons and Dragons with a group of my friends. We've been talking about it off and on, being like, well, what the heck's going to happen? Like, if that happens, we don't really want to support that. Where are we going to go? Are we going to go back to Pathfinder?
You better start paying your royalties, sir.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like it doesn't affect us, but we don't want to put our money into it. We don't want to buy the players handbooks for that, right? We don't want to buy the next whatever bullshit Dungeons and Dragons comes out with their next stolen content from one of their content creators, right? So we're sitting there thinking to ourselves, well, do we go to Pathfinder? What do we do? Do we go to some other
Go Shadowrun.
rule
Oh wait, no,
sets?
Shadowrun is it Shadowrun Wizards of the Coast?
I'm not entirely sure. It Shadows or Wizards of the Coast owns a lot of content, right? Like they own a lot of IPs, which is the sad part. So that's the biggest issue that we're looking at right now. They came out today. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure I added that. But there was a leak today from an insider apparently that basically stated that, and I think I added it in here. Let me check really quickly just to make sure. Yeah, it's the Dungeons and Dragons players cancel D&D Beyond subscriptions en masse after Insider Leak. So after the Insider Leak, basically said that, yeah, they're going to reverse this open game license thing for now, but they're still looking into it. Like they still want to very heavily incentivize it because it came out, the higher ups are basically looking at this situation and saying, well, we need to monetize, we need to make money off of D&D more, right? But essentially what happened is after this leak, a bunch of people went on and started canceling their D&D Beyond subscriptions and just completely crashed the server for for that specific
That's what
website.
happens. Piss off gamers.
And
They'll fight
yeah,
back.
and that's the biggest thing. Like I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to reverse this decision. Nobody, literally nobody in the D&D community is happy about this. So I don't see how they can push it
Even
forward.
it's affecting smaller projects and
Yeah.
developers too, of
Yeah.
anything related to
Like
D&D.
nobody is happy about this. Like literally nobody. This is the meme. Dungeons and Dragons or Wizards of the Coast are doing that meme where it's like, hey, let's revoke the open game license and make you guys pay for for our shit. That's them, and then it's just silence from everybody. That meme.
Mhm.
That's exactly what's going on. Is like Dungeons and Dragons are just they're being greedy, and I don't see how this can be a good thing for them. If anything, I see them losing a crap ton of money off of this. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well-
interested to see what happens. I'll update you guys. We'll update you guys on the next podcast and see if the story has moved forward at all or not. So
Sounds good. Thank you for listening to the Patch Notes. If you want to catch this live, we do this every other Thursday live right here on YouTube or on Twitch. And if you want to listen to full shows after the fact, we are on anchor.fm/prepatch podcast or on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere podcasts are listed. Much love, everybody.